What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, and we're back with more from Chess, and thus Benny Andersson, Bjorn Ulvaeus. I'm not sure if I'm saying that surname correctly. That's why I've been hesitant to say it up until now, but yes, and Tim Rice. Thank you again to Robert for providing the Benny and Bjorn material, of which there are a great many things in the larger umbrella folder. In any case, the next track from Chess is Quartet, and then parenthetically, a model of decorum and tranquility, which is a very interesting overall phrase. Quartet, obviously something that is composed of 4 parts, 4 movements, 4 sections, and then a model of decorum and tranquility. I mean, a model of decorum, someone or something that obeys all protocols, follows the letter of the law, and is respectful and polite, or adhering by etiquette. Tranquility, obviously the opposite of chaos, or something that is boisterous and loud and intense or jarring. So I feel like there's maybe, if not sarcasm, there might be more than meets the eye when it comes to the parenthetical part of the title. I'll just see what I can catch on the first listen. This is Benny, Bjorn, and Tim Rice. The track is Quartet, a model of decorum and tranquility, from the 1984 release Chess.
We wish, no must, make our disgust at this abuse perfectly clear. We're here for chess. Are the US? If so, why foul the atmosphere?
I must protest, our delegation has a host of valid points to raise. Our players' sporting attitudes beyond the praise as any neutral would attest. But we concede, the fact is to suspend the rules is not the players' fault. We'll overlook that political assault and let the protest will proceed.
If your man's so sweet, then why he's fighting talk? If he's not a cheat, then why on earth did he go take a walk?
I'm not surprised, he wanted fresh air once. He realized there was no
event
of your love
to a brawl. It's very sad to see the ancient and distinguished game that used to
be a model of decorum and tranquility become like any other sport, a battleground for rival ideologies to slaughter down with glee.
We wish, no must,
elegant, yes,
disgust
of this compelling
abuse perfectly
dispute comes the ghastly suspicion, my opposition was fruit.
I don't suppose you understand the strain of pressure getting where he's gone, for then you'd simply call him highly strung and not deny that he was one of them.
It seems to us there's little point in waiting here all night for his return, and since a peaceful match is our sentence, and we will make an official thanks. In short, we rise above your guys, tantrums, dramas, dirty tricks.
I can only say one. I hope you'd know game till that far off day. I hope you close with helping number 2.
It's very sad to see the ancient and distinguished game that used to be a model of decorum and tranquility become like any other sport, a battleground for rival ideologies to snug it out with glee.
Amazing. That's very cleverly written lyrically and musically, meaning we've got polyphony here, multiple melodic and vocal lines at different tempos, with, I believe, the Russian side represented, or the Soviet side represented by the deep voice that starts it off, objecting to this breach of protocol, which sounds like the American player went outside or left the playing room, ostensibly to use the restroom, but they're suggesting it might be to get strategies or stratagems from others and to seek outside assistance with his next move, and thus to essentially break the rules. And then it sounds like the American voice at the middle tempo is, or even the slower tempo, but is saying, you know, this is not, you know, you have no right to suspect me, and I just needed some air, or something to that effect. The female vocal, which is at the most rapid tempo, and I love the way she hits the syllables in this rapid delivery, it sounds like she's someone sympathetic to the American player, and maybe someone who knows something about, you know, where he came from. And if you knew who he was and where he came from, you'd realize that he's just high-strung. This was nothing illegal, this is nothing untoward. He just needed a moment, he had to, use the restroom, or he had to go outside and get some fresh air, but this is not something that is a breach of protocol. And it sounds like all three of them are arriving at the same conclusion, that why can't this just be a model of decorum and tranquility like it used to be? Why does it have to fall into the patterns of all these other sports, which have now become these battlegrounds for competing ideologies? But the Soviet side is saying well, you're the one who broke that because you left the room. This is a sacrosanct competition. You're not allowed to leave the table where we don't know who you're going and talking to or what you might be doing, what you might be looking at. And he's saying, the American player is saying, why do you have to turn this into this, competing ideology where you take something as simple as needing to get some fresh air or go to the restroom as an indication of American treachery? And the female voice is saying, again, why does it have to become this thing? Why can't someone just, need a moment on a human level without it being seen in light of these big competing forces and this, proxy match between the Americans and the Soviets, in this microcosm of a chess tournament? So, yeah, I enjoy the different levels in terms of tone or pitch of their vocals, the different speeds in terms of the delivery, the different vocal lines in this polyphonic arrangement that then becomes monophonic, all three of them arriving at the same melody and rhythm at the end of the sequence, and the cleverness of the writing as it relates to the the different players and the geopolitical context of everything that's happening. Again, it felt very much like watching an opera, which most operas, they're in French, they're in Italian, they're in German. So hearing an operatic type of composition but in English is nice. As someone who's come to enjoy opera, I've talked about this in my classical reactions. I've liked classical music since I was very young, but that typically was only symphonic or chamber music, instrumental compositions. And opera, when I did hear it as a single-digit kid, because my dad listens to all sorts of classical music still, and he's the one who got me into it when I was very young, but he did like opera. When I would hear opera, I was like, it's so busy, and people singing at the same time, and it just didn't hit me in the way that over time as an adult I've come to appreciate it. So I like the idea of hearing what essentially is an opera piece, but in English, where I can understand all the words right away. So yes, a very creative and clever composition, and again suggesting that the game is now underway, but the political firing back and forth, or crossfire, has well and truly begun. And then there's, I don't know, it feels like she's maybe more on the American side. Maybe she's someone who's part of the administration of the tournament, but she seemed to take a more sympathetic line in terms of why the American player might have left the room, and suggesting that he shouldn't be suspected, and that again, he's only high-strung. But yeah, just very clever, very enjoyable. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you again to Robert. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.